Hey everybody, and welcome to the Course of World History. I am Mr. Samuelson as always, and today we are talking about the Inca in our continuing discussion of American civilizations. So our essential question for today is, what were the causes of the rise and fall of the Inca? So, the Inca. In the late 1300s, the Inca were just a small community around the city of Cusco. Um, in the 1440s, however, this small community really erupts throughout Western South America and launched this massive campaign of conquest under Pachacuti. I have no idea if I just pronounced that right. Kind of looks like Pikachu, but I'm going to call him Pachacuti. So he's their initial leader, and he and his two immediate successors really do push the empire both north and south and extend over most of the western part of South America. Now, the political structure of this empire really started with the most important person, the Inca. The Inca is a title, so it's not just the Inca Empire, it is his empire, him being the Inca, which basically means ruler. So we have the Inca up the top. Below the Inca, we have four governors that rule the four quarters of the empire. So it's been broken up into these four different pieces, and each person is below the Inca in charge of their areas. The governor then subdivides that territory into provinces. And the provinces really have a target population of about 10,000 people. So the borders of the provinces change, the population itself moves around a little bit in order to maintain this kind of structure based on that population. The Inca could and did, on a regular basis, move communities. They can just have an entire village pick up and move to other areas to meet labor demands, or sometimes just because the people in a particular area are getting a little bit more rabble-rousing than the Inca might like, and they want to separate that population, so they force one village to move. Social structures. Now, once the Inca took control of an area, the population was required to learn the Incan language, Quechua, which was that Incan language, and it unified the communication throughout the empire. Additionally, all young men were required to serve in the military. It was something that was demanded within the empire. And all residents, men, women, children, old and young, could be added to the empire's labor pool whenever a large government project was in the works. So an entire village could be literally moved from one part of the empire to another part of the empire to work on a project. All right, so the building. The Inca were the best engineers, hands down, in the Americas. In their empire, they had about 25,000 miles of roads, which, one, 25,000 miles of roads is pretty impressive, but two, it was largely through this very mountainous empire, and they had to snake along hillsides and across mountain ridges. This was not easy, simple road construction. This was construction in a complex mountainous empire. Also, Incan buildings, they were constructed with unmortared, close-fitting stone. These big stones, and one's much, much, much bigger than this, without any mortar in between. So this is stone on stone. That is a very precise cut and precise fitting of the stones to make this happen. Now, why did they do this? The reason they did it is because this is a very seismically active area of the world. And all these earthquakes would break down that mortar and cause buildings to collapse if it had that layer of mortar between the stones. So instead, the Inca had to cut it very precisely and fit it just right so that it wouldn't collapse in earthquake. Incan farms, I don't have a picture of this one, kind of sort of see it here, included a lot of terracing, much like the Maya did. This preserved soil quality and also made sure that the rain that fell in the area didn't immediately run down the mountain. Instead, it soaked into the soil to feed the crops. Now, the culture is a very top-down culture. The Incan society was largely controlled by the government. People were forced into military service and into government building projects, as mentioned before. And also, it's interesting to note that despite the fact that they had this really advanced road system, those roads were really the exclusive property of the government and the military. And nobody could use those roads to travel without the express permission of the government. And this is a way that the Inca maintained control over their empire. So, how do the Inca collapse? Well, disease and civil war play a big part in it. In the early 1500s, they really are struck with three disasters. The first one is smallpox. Smallpox had hit Central America and Mesoamerica, destroyed the Aztec population, and then it did what disease tends to do. It migrated from person to person all throughout the area, hitting the people in Central America, working their way into Northern South America, and eventually hitting the Incan Empire itself. The Incans had never met the Spanish who brought smallpox, and yet 50% of the Incan population died of this horrible disease. And it was one person in particular that caused their second problem, and that was that the Incan emperor, the Inca, died of smallpox. And when he died, his two sons, these two gentlemen right here, fought out a civil war for control of the empire. One of his sons was the announced heir, the person who was supposed to take over. The other person was with his father when his father died and told those people around him that his father had changed his mind on his deathbed and wanted him to inherit the empire instead. So both sons had presumably been told that they would inherit the empire, and this led to that conflict. The third was the Spanish. All right, so smallpox, civil war, and now the Spanish. And the Spanish is really going to focus on this man, Francisco Pizarro. Francisco Pizarro had been inspired by the conquests of Hernan Cortez and what he was able to do against the Aztecs. And 13 years later, Pizarro is going to sail just 2 ships, small handful of soldiers, into the south to seek the Incan Empire, which he had heard about. And on their way, they had come across an Incan ship, a boat, that was loaded with silver being transferred through the empire. And this really helped Pizarro to see, oh my gosh, these Inca, they're really wealthy. This is really going to be profitable if we can make this happen. So Pizarro arrives in the Incan territory just after this fella right here, Atahualpa, has defeated his brother and won the Civil War. And this has just happened. And Atahualpa is kind of traveling around, not even returned to his capital city yet, when he hears about the arrival of the Spanish. He goes to meet them and is ambushed and captured by Pizarro and his men. Now, the Spanish then hold the Inca hostage, Atahualpa's hostage, until the Inca pay him an obscene amount of gold and silver. They actually had a room, and they said this room has to be filled with gold, and this room has to be filled with silver, and once you have filled the room with gold and silver, we will release Atahualpa. And the Inca are easily able to fill that gold, that room with gold and silver. And Pizarro is amazed by how easily they can pay this. They must be fabulously wealthy. Let's see what we can get to do to get more of their wealth. It'd be a lot easier to conquer them if they didn't have a leader. So they execute Atahualpa. They break their promise and kill Atahualpa, even though the bribe has been paid. Well, the Inca now have been ravaged by civil war. They've been ravaged by disease. And now Atahualpa has been executed. They have no acknowledged leader. And Pizarro is able to take advantage of this confusion and this chaos and quickly moved to capture the capital city of Cusco. Now, Pizarro does not have enough men to conquer the entire empire, and the Inca do resist this Spanish takeover. It takes more than 40 years for the Spanish to completely subdue the Inca people, but they eventually do, and the Spanish are in control of South America. That's all for today. I do hope that you learned a thing or two and enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.